Welcome. My name is Aaron Gard. I'm the Executive Director of the Institute for Innovation at the UNC School of Law. And this is our latest episode of Innovators and Entrepreneurs. Today we have with us UNC alumni Pat Brown, Jeff Allred, and 2L's Hannah Hall. We are here to discuss recent topics in innovation in the world of entrepreneurship. So to start with, I'd like to introduce our panelists and our guests. So Pat Brown is the Executive Vice President and Chief Legal Officer at SAS, a data and AI solutions firm headquartered in Cary, North Carolina. Her role oversees legal and licensing operations, government affairs, enterprise negotiations, and the risk department at SAS. As a member of the executive management team, Pat plays a central role in setting corporate policies for the company. She also currently sits on the advisory board for the Institute for Innovation at the School of Law. We thank her for that. Before joining SAS, Pat served as a paralegal for 5 years at the United States Marine Corps. Pat has a BA in Music Education from Emporia State University and a JD from the UNC School of Law. Thanks for being here, Pat.
You're welcome.
Jeff Allred is a partner at the law firm of Nelson Mullins, where he served for 10 years as the firm-wide chair of the corporate practice group. Jeff recently served as member of the board of directors of ShareCare, then a publicly traded health and wellness technology company, and is chair of the company's nominating and corporate governance committee and audit committee. He has been a director and member of the investment committee at the Keenan Flagler Private Equity Funds since inception. Jeff is currently chair of the board of Keenan Flagler Business School, and he's also a member of the advisory board at our Institute for Innovation. Thanks, Jeff.
Thank you.
Previously, Jeff was at Premier Global Services, Inc. That was then a publicly traded global communications technology and services company, where he served in various executive roles, including president and COO. And he was a member of its board of directors as well. Jeff has his BA, MBA, and JD from the University of North Carolina.
Yes.
Triple Tar Heel.
Yeah.
Finally, these bios are long. Hannah Hall is a second-year law student at the University of North Carolina. She currently serves as the president of the Transactional Law Association and is a Dean's Fellow and Carolina Law Ambassador. She mentors first-year law students and supports prospective students as they navigate the admissions process at Carolina Law. Hannah is pursuing a career in transactional law and will be joining Proskauer at Rose in New York City as a 2L summer associate. Thanks, Hannah. Mm-hmm. So let's kick off the discussion. So Hannah, in preparing for today, we talked about the first year of law school and how it's not only stressful, but if you're interested in a transactional career, the first year may have you feeling like you may be in the wrong place. Can you talk to us some about your student experience and what you and other students are thinking about in that regard?
Sure, yeah. So I think what comes along with the first year of law school is you're doing all your doctrinal courses, and you're learning about torts and crim, and you learn about contracts, but I feel like if you're hoping to do more of transactional and corporate practice, you're not really sure if this is the right place for you in that moment. And when you're starting law school, it's kind of difficult to feel like you're not maybe on the right path right at the beginning. So that's something that we try to serve that need for the Transactional and Corporate Law Association, to have students who are interested in transactional and corporate law, to give them kind of an outlet aside from their doctrinal classes where they can learn all about the practice groups that are underneath that whole umbrella. But yeah, it can be scary to feel like you're maybe not making the right decision for you if you're taking classes that are towards litigation, but you want to do transactional.
So you're currently the president of the Transactional Corporate Law Association?
Yes.
Also known as TCLA?
Yes.
How many members in that group, and what are kind of some things that you guys discuss in your meeting?
Yeah, so we want to have about 50 to 70 members. It's a lot of 1Ls who are interested in transactional and corporate law, but aren't really sure where to start or aren't really sure what that means. So we try to have a lot of different law firms come in and mentor our students and talk about different practice groups and what the day-to-day looks like as a transactional and corporate lawyer.
That's great.
So Pat, we had a good question for you because UNC Law is fortunate enough to have a graduate in such an influential role at one of the world's most innovative companies and a local company at that. So we wanted you to discuss a little bit your journey, how you got to SAS, and hopefully connect the dots looking back now. But you had no idea where you'd end up from where you started. So understanding your journey can give so many law students hope.
Sure. And I'm going to try to address one of the things that Aaron asked about, which is that first year where you feel kind of like, oh my gosh, what am I in torts and constitutional law and all that stuff? I will tell you, you will need that later on. Because if you are negotiating a contract and you don't understand torts and you don't understand contract law, and sometimes constitutional law even, you're going to be in trouble. So you need that underlying understanding of the basics of law, and then you will apply them in those different areas. So I would never tell somebody that you're wasting your time. You have to have those things, and then they'll all fit in later. So how did I get there? I had a very circuitous path, and I started, as Aaron said, as a music teacher. Now, how you would think a music teacher would end up as the CLO of a technology company is pretty far-fetched, right?
Yeah.
Not only that, but then I made a little detour into the Marine Corps. Well, that's how I got into the law and found that I just loved it. I thought that I would do when I got into law school, I thought I'd like family law because I like people, and I wanted to help. Oh my goodness, no. I interned for a summer with a firm that did some family law and said, oh no, that's not what I want to do. Even after I got out, I did asbestos litigation and learned I really did not want to be a courtroom attorney. I didn't want to be a litigator. So I was fortunate enough to get in at SAS as a generalist. I was hired to do work there as a intellectual property and human resources attorney, which just tells you you've got to be flexible. You have to take all the different areas that you learned about and be very flexible and always look for new areas that you can jump into. So tell people don't worry if they think, or I want to tell people, don't worry if you don't have it down pat in that first year of what you want to do. Get as many experiences as you can, because they will all lead to good things when you do finally settle in your area. And I think Jeff will probably second that.
Absolutely.
Jeff, same question for you. Kind of tell us a little bit about your journey as a corporate lawyer.
Well, it started as an aspiring litigator. So I was a debater at the University of North Carolina as an undergraduate. And like many of my fellow competitive debaters, saw a path to law school, and the natural extension of debate is litigation. I became a summer associate at a firm in Atlanta. After my second year, I was in a 4-year program because I was in the joint MBA JD program, and did a lot of litigation support work. When I got out of school and went to work for that law firm, I did a lot of early litigation support work, but I had gotten interested in business law and business when I was in graduate school. Got a very fortunate offer to come to the business school and get a joint degree, and got some money to do that, which made it possible. So I had that as a sort of a background. And I was given the opportunity to then do some mergers and acquisition and some public offering work, and I never went back to litigation.
Pat, back to you. Can you describe a little bit of SAS's innovative history dating back to the 1960s?
Sure, guys. We're going to celebrate 50 years next year.
Congrats.
So, yeah, we're really excited about that. So SAS got started as a doctorate research program for Dr. Goodnight at NC State. They were doing statistical analysis of agricultural data. And it just grew from there. So statistics, and even then we were doing forecasting, which was like the grandparent of what we think of as AI today. So we were doing some of that anyway. It just grew into areas where our customers came back and they said, we need to know how to utilize our data better in this area. We need to know how to address these regulations that are coming in the banking industry. Can you guys help us? Because we know you know how to crunch data and do that. So we really listened to a lot of what our customers were telling us about what they needed. In fact, for many, many years, we did something called the SaaSware ballot, where our users actually told us what they wanted from us. And then we would collate that information and figure out how to use it best. Today, we really are at the forefront of a lot of the AI work. And one of the things that we feel passionately about is the governance and fairness of data and how it is used in AI. So we have created a group that is actually innovating in that and going out and consulting with other companies on how you can train your AI models and things without significant bias, or to watch for the bias, or to govern it. So I get to work with a lot of very, very smart people, and it's an exciting place to be.
So sitting in the chair you sit in now at SAS, which is now a huge global company, one of the largest privately owned companies in the world, how are you leveraging your law degree every day in managing the team of lawyers you have around the world?
Well, the law is always a little different in every country, but what I'll also say is it's a lot the same too. The basics are the same pretty much everywhere you go. So I leverage my law degree in conjunction with what I have learned about business. And there is not a single place in the company that legal doesn't touch at some point. So what we do as attorneys, and what I do in managing those attorneys, is look for the places that the company needs our help to be successful, and to advise them, I don't want anybody to go to jail, and I don't want anybody to pay big fines. So that's really what we do, is we tie the business and the legal knowledge that all my lawyers and I have.
That's amazing. And I think we hear so much about AI now, and I wanted to ask both of you, as employers, what's your advice to law students for keeping up with technology and leveraging AI and all these new technologies to be better lawyers?
You want to take it first, Jeff?
Well, how to use it, or the importance of it? What's the okay? Well, I would start by saying that if I'm coming out of law school today, my number one priority is to become expert in the AI tools, because that's going to give me a competitive advantage over and provide me with an opportunity to add value to an organization where a number of the people in the organization will not have had that sort of native operating expertise with the tools. It's not, in many respects, any different than any other new technology that's come along during my 45-year career, where the younger folks that are coming out of school that are more technologically proficient add value to the older lawyers that aren't. So that's the number one. I would become very proficient at it. Does that answer your first question? Okay.
Yeah.
Pat,
So I'm with Jeff on this. If you are scared of the technology, you better get over it, because it will be a huge advantage, and it is not going to go away. So a law student coming out that understands how it works, the pitfalls of it, not just all the glory and the pretty stuff, because there's some dark side to it too, and we're all seeing lawyers fall prey to some of that if they're not careful. So the students coming out have the best chance at understanding the new technology. You got to keep up with it. It's just like word processors and all that stuff. I mean, everybody's laughing, but when that first started, lawyers were like, should we use this? It's keeping data somewhere. You've got to understand it, and we would I would advise every law student to at least be familiar with how it can be used in law.
So it sounds like you both would agree that you shouldn't worry about AI replacing jobs, but perhaps replacing folks who don't get familiar with it and use it.
Correct. I mean, and again, I'm going to go back to Word. People who didn't want to learn how to use Word didn't last very long.
Right.
I, in my heart of hearts, do not believe AI can ever replace human beings completely.
No.
It doesn't have any empathy. It doesn't understand people. It can give the semblance of doing that. But if there's not a human intervention somewhere in there, it's going to be problematic. So I cannot see it. And heavens knows, even now, first-year associates are going to have to check sites because we all know that AI makes them up.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
So Hannah, a question for you as a student representative. What do you and your classmates think about, what are y'all talking about when it comes to changes in technology and the legal profession going forward? What are y'all talking about? What are your concerns?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest things right now is it is kind of the Wild West. So students don't know kind of the boundaries of when we're able to use it or when we're not able to use it. UNC Law just implemented their policy for generative AI this year. So we now do have some guidance. But I think for a lot of law students, maybe who haven't understood the technology or used it before, are maybe worried that they are coming into firms and expected to know how to use it and don't. So that's great advice. What you're saying is to learn how to use it. I don't think that the younger law students now are worried about it replacing their jobs, but I think they're worried about the ins and outs of the compliance side of it. Going to new firms, not really knowing the rules, and then maybe they use AI and they're not allowed to, or they mess up somehow. That's really the biggest thing that scares law students right now.
Can I jump in on that? Because I'm interested. As a lawyer, it's our duty to check, double check, rethink about it. So truly, I am not seeing that AI is bringing anything to the legal profession. I mean, yes, streamlining. But in terms of our duty as a lawyer, I don't think it's changing anything. I really don't. So that's what I'd say to these students. And if they don't know how it's accepted in the firm, you know what I'd say? Ask. Why would you go in? One of the things I look for in a new attorney is, are you smart enough to know when to ask when you need help?
No question.
So.
Pat, you just made me think of actually, I asked you once, you've been gracious with your time and met with me several times talking about supporting the Institute and supporting young lawyers in general and students. I asked you what makes you, what's the one skill that you have that makes you good at your job? Do you remember what you told me?
Oh gosh, no.
It was doing what you just said. It's issue spotting and seeing what the issue is or what
Yeah.
the future issue
Oh,
is,
yeah.
and then knowing the right people to ask to help solve that problem.
Absolutely.
So it was really just issue spotting and managing.
It is. That's what lawyers do. It is. But if you're afraid to ask if you don't know, you're not going to be successful. You're going to mess up. And that's not the worst thing either.
Yeah, so another thing about what students are worried about right now is a lot of 1Ls feel like the timeline for recruiting for these big law firms is creeping up earlier and earlier, and that they have to pick a lane before they can really understand what they like. So do you think students risk closing doors too early? And what would you tell a student who feels this pressure that they need to pick a lane right now, get in at a firm, and just not worry about exploring other options?
Jeff, you're at a firm, so why don't you take that first, and then I'll tell you what I think from a corporate
yes,
standpoint.
I started at a firm. I started at a large firm. I then moved to a boutique firm. I moved back to a large firm, and then I moved in-house in a non-legal role. And in that non-legal role, I was able to use a lot of the, sort of underpinning disciplines of law in order to do my job, which was corporate development. I was raising money, buying businesses, making investments. All requires critical thinking, sometimes creativity, persuasion, communication, but grounded in sort of the understanding of basic legal principles because it was transaction based. I then moved into operations, which got me further from sort of my comfort zone, which stretched me a little bit, and became the president and chief operating officer of a technology company, public technology company in Atlanta. And then ultimately, after I left that company, after 10 years, I got back into law. So, I don't view the world as one lane. I mean, I think this education that you get at law school and at the University of North Carolina in particular will give you the tools to do a variety of things. And your job, in your career is to make sure you are open to opportunities. I planned nothing that happened to me. It happened, and I took advantage of opportunities and doors that opened. But if you were to ask me, did you know when you graduated from law school that you would be the chief operating officer of a public technology company? No. I mean, not at all.
Same question for you, Pat.
Yeah, I mean what Jeff said. You have to stay open and get a job. Get a job where you can get some experience. If it's the one where you think that this is where you'd like to go, wonderful. Get the experience, get in there. You may find that is absolutely what you love. You may find that, but you learned something.
Right.
So Jeff's point about just stay open and take advantage of every opportunity that comes your way. You'll learn from it.
Yeah, I think you both touched on something that's very important that we talked about when we were first planning this. Is the idea of hope. And you just mentioned it, and you mentioned it prior, that you can't connect the dots in your career looking forward. You can only do it looking backwards. Mm-hmm. And so I don't think when you were in the Marines, you necessarily thought you'd be doing what you're doing at SAS.
Not at all.
Yeah, and you just mentioned you didn't think
No.
looking forward. So that's something when you're young and you're a student, you don't have enough gray hair to know that. So you have to go through those experiences. But we do want to give the students kind of hope that if they are interested in something, innovation, entrepreneurship, transactional, that the degree they're going to walk away with is going to be super valuable.
Absolutely.
in the world.
Yeah, and I'd love to hear both of you kind of talk about maybe the idea of when you're in a job at a law firm or somewhere, how do you kind of keep that channel open in your mind to explore later on? How are you finding opportunities to explore or to change paths in your career and have an open mind?
Go ahead, Pat.
One, you have to be brave enough to do it. And it's a scary thing to do when you get into a certain area and it's like, that's not me. That's not what I want to do. So don't lock yourself in. Say, okay, I'm going to take something from this experience and I'm going to move it into something else. So I said I found out I didn't want to be a litigator. But doing what I did there helped me learn to think all the way around a contract and all the things that could go wrong with it. It helps me in my role today in that I do have to get up and talk to people and explain to them. And sometimes the jury is those people that I'm working with every day, So there is something in everything you do that will get you to the next point. But you have to be brave enough to say, I'd like another opportunity. Go to that partner. And you can speak to this better than me. In-house, we get, someone that's fairly young. I'm not going to lock them into a single role because they will be a better attorney for the company if they have an opportunity to do different things. If they have an opportunity to do procurement, to do even HR work, those are the employees. They're doing the innovation, to do IP work. They will be better advisors for the company if they have lots of experience. So just grab the experience where you can.
Yeah, and in doing it, there are no corners that you can cut. I mean, when I said that I didn't pre-plan where I ended up, what I tried to do from the beginning was the best job I could do in the moment.
That's right.
And when you're first out of school, that best job is to execute against whatever assignment somebody in that law firm is giving you, right? Be very good at it and become a value-added member of that person, that man or woman who's giving you that assignment, part of that team. Work as fast as you can to, establish your ability to, flawlessly execute against the basics, which AI will help, by the way. And then move as quickly as you can, correctly, into more client-facing world, okay? And in the client-facing world, you're going to be using things that AI cannot replace: empathy, communication, persuasion, the ability to see around corners on behalf of a client, and creativity. When you get to that point in your career, you're going to be dealing directly with clients. And in my case, I had a client that felt strongly enough about what I had done for him and his new company that he asked me to come and be part of his team. So that was the door that opened for me, and it is open for dozens of people that I've worked with, and that I've hired. I've hired people out of school that became CEOs of major companies. And now in one case, he's now back working in our law firm as a partner. So it's a fabulous baseline skill set that you can use and become a lawyer and be a very good lawyer for the rest of your career. And I have a lot of friends that have done that very well, and they've done very well. But it also gives you the tools to move in and out of business or policy and back into the law, so long as you don't lose your skill set. Right. And can surround yourself, as you say, with very smart people.
Very smart people.
So the ability to team is important too.
Yeah, and I just look at SAS. I can count several people who are on the business side that have law degrees. We have people in government affairs, we have people in public sector sales, we have people advising on audit and helping out with taxes. So we've got people in all different walks that have a law degree because it teaches you to think.
Yeah. And that's particularly true in regulated industries.
Yes,
there are a lot of
so true.
regulated industry executives that came out of law.
Mm-hmm.
I love that. And you kind of talked a little bit about how your law degree has helped you with all of these ways to think and all these different practice areas. And I also wanted to ask you about your time in the Marine Corps, because a lot of people with experience before law school feel like their prior experience maybe doesn't fit within the legal profession. What have you carried with you from the Marine Corps to now that has instilled all these skills in you?
From the Marine Corps, it was, well, one, that's where I learned my love of the law. But it was to work with all different kinds of people. People with different points of view, people who thought they were going to, well, and could, tell you what to do and how you had to deal with that. Because even in the profession I'm in, where I am today, I have a boss. And I may not always agree, but I work with him and I try to give him the best advice and then make the decision. So I would say that was the biggest one, and patience. Oh heavens, you have to have patience in the Marine Corps. But it was really the ability to work with everybody. I would say as a teacher, it was part of that trusted advisor, learning to be a person who can explain something in a way, and maybe the way you explained it the first time, they don't get it. And so you have to find another way. So being a teacher helped me with that. You will take something from every piece of your life going forward to make you who you are today. And I just can't express enough to get as many experiences as you can. It'll make you a better lawyer.
Yeah, let me just extend one theme that Pat mentioned, which was her ability or her exposure to a variety of people in the Marine Corps. Mm-hmm. Your ability to connect with people, which cannot be replaced by technology, is key to being a good lawyer, whether you're a litigator or a transactional lawyer. And your ability to connect with, persuade, work with, team with people with different backgrounds, points of view, all of those are very, very important skills. Now, some of that's taught in law school. Much of that's not. So, exposing yourself through clubs to people that have, different backgrounds, different points of view, learning how to resolve differences between you and that other person, learning how to read motivations off of people are going to be extremely important to your success as a transaction lawyer, just like it would be in the courtroom, being able to read the jury. You can tell a number of stories about where that came in very handy. But don't discount those, when I was your age, I thought of as soft skills. Those are actually very, very critical skills.
Critical.
Yeah, something you just mentioned is really important for young attorneys, and I think it's one, having confidence, but it's two, it's understanding your clients.
Yes.
And in the world of innovation and entrepreneurship, that means trying and failing often. And you were mentioning trying new things as a lawyer. That means you're going to fail some. But especially when you're working with startups in the world of innovation, there's a lot of failure. Look at private equity folks and venture capital folks. Most of the dollars, where they're putting their dollars, most of that's going to fail. So you got to get thick skin. You got to be willing to learn, fail early and often. And so when it comes to the theme of hope we want to give to you and our students, it's like it's okay to try new things. You got to step out of your comfort zone sometimes, and that's okay. You're going to fail. Same as your clients. So you can, if that's the world you go, you can relate to your clients in that respect, kind of understanding.
Yeah, your only failure is not learning from it.
Yeah, that's true. So, Aaron, on that regard, Dean Brinkley had a third-year class in M&A. He invited me to speak a few years ago, and he wanted me to talk about representing entrepreneurs. So I put together a short conversation piece about the mind of the entrepreneur and how an entrepreneur thinks. They're not all the same, obviously, but as a category of people, how they think and how that contrasts with the way that you're trained to think as a lawyer. And they couldn't be any different, right? You got risk-averse people versus risk takers. And to represent and help a risk taker grow his or her business is a skill set, if you want to be in that part of transaction law, that you need to learn, starting with understanding your role and how to help that person. So many lawyers, and when I was in my business career, I hired a whole bunch of lawyers to represent our law firm in various transactions. And, I used top firms, but even within top firms, the variety of law advice that I got was pretty dramatic. And I always look for what I'd call an effective lawyer, as opposed to the smartest lawyer. An effective lawyer could read the room, could read what I wanted out of a transaction, was thoughtful enough to ask the right questions in terms of the goals of what we were trying to accomplish, found paths to accomplish that, what I call the yes but rule, which is, we're not no people. It's so easy to say no, that's too risky. We're not yes people, because nobody wants you to just say yes all the time. But you say, yes, I hear where you're going, but, let me suggest this path, right? So yes, but becomes very important in representing that type of client. Understanding their business, understanding their dreams, and sharing their dreams and their passion is important. Connecting with that person becomes important. None of that gets replaced by AI. Zero.
No, it doesn't. But it also brings us back to that original question about one else thinking maybe they're not in the right place. All those things that Jeff was talking about, that what if, yes but path, if you don't have an understanding of the core of the law, you can't think creatively about that other path.
Right.
You have to understand both. So your law school education's the grounding for all of that.
So you both talked about some really great things for some law students to think about as they're moving through their law school experience, but just big picture, What are some skills that you think we should sharpen during law school as employers that you think make a young lawyer stand out?
Pat, you
Well,
wanna
we
take it?
already talked about the AI. We do think they need to,
Yeah.
I think we all believe you've got to do that. I always look for people who are curious and really are interested in, I'm in-house, in my business, in the business that I am supporting. So if they are interested in like being in a technology business or being in-house or something, learn about business too. Take some opportunities. If like your club, I think that's great, but I think you guys also need to be thinking beyond just the legal piece of it, because as I tell young people that come into the law department, you need to be curious, you need to find your mentors, and above all, you need to understand we are only here to support the business. That is what we are here for. Now, that's different in a law firm, but in-house, you have one client, and you better know them backwards, forwards, and be curious about it. The other thing is don't be afraid to ask questions and to fail. Those are the things that I would say. And they're all the soft skills. You're learning this stuff in classes, so these are all the soft skills that we're looking for. Does that help?
Very much, yes.
Yes, sir. If I could extend one thing that she said in the interview, Pat mentioned, understand my business. If you're going to work at SAS, you better know what SAS does before you walk in the room. Don't walk in the room and ask her, oh, what does SAS do? You do the work up front. Now, fortunately, with AI, the amount of time necessary to get pretty proficient in understanding somebody else's business has been cut dramatically. So you can become very smart almost instantaneously about anybody. And nothing is more, and this is just a practice tip on interviewing or meeting anybody, nothing is more interesting to the person that you're talking to is the fact that you understand and want to learn about them. In other words, the most, as I put it to my sons when they go out and do job interviews, remember that the most interesting subject person you're asking or talking to sometimes is them. So always ask about them, right? Always ask questions about the people that are in there interviewing you. Ask about, the law firm or the business that you're interviewing with, but do your research going in so that you have a foundation to do that. That will become important in terms of getting the job, and that becomes even more important when you're in the workplace and getting clients, which ultimately in private practice is your power, is your ability to generate clients. So understanding their business, understanding their mindset, understanding their background, being able to talk with them, get passionate about what they're doing along with them. They see you as a partner, not as a necessary evil. And that's where and that's true.
That's very true.
Sometimes, lawyers get a bad rap because for a variety of reasons, some of which are earned, frankly. But good lawyers, you will always hear their clients, whether the client is the employer or whether the client is a third party, will say, I wouldn't walk in the room without Pat or fill in the blank. That's my partner in there. Trusted advisor.
Trusted advisor. That's our key word.
Well, thank y'all very much. I really appreciate everyone's time. Pat, Jeff, Hannah.
Thank you, Al.
Thanks for being here, and we look forward
is
to
fun.
our next episode.